Hi Max, Dane Rose here. What I want to do in this video is walk you through the values and decisions that I've made out of those values and have you interject alternate paths and perhaps benefits to those paths so that people in a similar situation to myself can learn from you for the future, and also that I have a chance to benefit from your wider expertise in these areas, because there may be a better way to actualize some of these values than what I'm doing. So I'll start with the beginning. I began investing actually mainly out of passion and protest because I didn't like all the shorts ganging up on Tesla. So my investment started mostly with a traditional IRA and, just put all of my money into Tesla just to, back a sustainable company. So I should say that my driving values, we have ecology, well-being, personal and collective well-being, travel. Thailand is my favorite country, and tax reduction, and I guess not retirement, but financial independence would be the goal. And so, I lucked out, made 10 times my money, and now I have a $100,000 IRA with mostly Tesla, and then more recently, because it's been hard to buy Bitcoin in an IRA, I've sold some of the Tesla and bought some micro strategies. So let's say I have $30,000 in MicroStrategy and $70,000 in Tesla in my traditional IRA. So that was the beginning. As I got more involved in nonprofit projects, I'm particularly concerned about homelessness in Marin County. And what I understand is that with present housing regulations, it's illegal to build a house for less than $650,000 in Marin County. If you buy the cheapest piece of land and pay the $50,000 in permits fees and another $50,000 in engineering and the $50,000 water hookup and build the minimum square footage, in my case, they will not allow a house to be built for less than 1,200 square feet. Go figure. It comes up to more than $650,000. So all low-cost housing is illegal. And, that got me thinking more about, why is housing so expensive and what to do about that. So I've designed a 10X community. And if you're interested in quality of life and low-cost housing, you can visit 10xliving.org and look at the dimension section. So I began to get in that. Then I found that, so far as I know, it is illegal to create that community in the way that I've designed it in the United States for all kinds of, various reasons. So I then started looking around the world, looked at Sweden in some of the rural parts, Costa Rica, but I'm thinking most likely in the Philippines. My wife is Filipina. And so, I've come up with a rough $350,000 budget to build the infrastructure on the island of Palawan, and which is voted one of the nicest islands and places in the world. And also has the benefit of, low-cost labor and a lot of openness. It's a great innovative culture, in my opinion. So as I got into some of these more nonprofit projects, there was no way to write off the expenses in my landscape business. I started a landscape business at age 17, and it's now 29 years later. And so the landscape business, I moved it to an S corp so that I could, pay myself a salary and save 50% on Social Security, and put that into my own investments. So that's been my kind of strategy there. And mostly, I've been just in the last 10 years hitting 100K or 130K in work, and then taking 3, 4, 5 months off, and focused on that. But with this goal of building a nest egg, because I wouldn't consider it being feasible to make money in any serious way overseas, from what I can tell from interviewing expats in Thailand or Philippines. I want to, if I move over there, have as much money as need be. So that suddenly I go from paying a few $1,000s a year in taxes, or no, in some years no money in federal taxes, to as I'm saving up money, getting a higher tax bill. So I started Happiness Data, 501c3, which was my first nonprofit. And I learned that if I donate $50,000 or less a year to the nonprofit, then we don't have to file a formal tax, we don't have to do a tax return for the nonprofit. And the tax return for a nonprofit is more expensive than a regular one. So the idea of spending a few $1,000s a year plus headache and paperwork dilutes the value of the nonprofit. One of the big focuses that I've actually written a book called 10X Nonprofit. I'm looking at how every penny can go to something intelligent, not to, paying tax preparers, et cetera. So when I learned that it would be, $1,000 or more to get a return on the nonprofit, and also take up, a number of hours of my time and all the filings, I learned that, because we set up the nonprofit with LegalZoom, and so it takes about $300 to set up a nonprofit with LegalZoom, and then $40 a year in paperwork to maintain it. In other words, for a lot less time, hassle, and a third of the cost, which is a one-time cost, I can set up another nonprofit instead of, putting $150,000 into one nonprofit and having to pay the returns. I started another nonprofit. Only this one was in the religious category. Now, the reason for the religious category, again, was, in communal lifestyle, if everyone contributes 4 hours of time to, cooking and all of that, you can get into labor issues, but religions seem to have some freedom. So it just seemed like, one, a useful degree of freedom there. Two, in the U.S., all kinds of medicinal plants, psilocybin, peyote, things of that nature, which can be useful for depression and things like that, are illegal unless you're using them for religious purposes. And so the second nonprofit is the Science of Belief, to make it as uncult-like as possible. The religion is basically to follow the data, which the DEA and most religions are not doing. So kind of a data-based religion. So that then gives me the ability to donate $100,000 a year to my 50 and 50 to both of my nonprofits. And, because I want the nonprofits to be self-sustaining, meaning I don't enjoy going out and raising money. I don't particularly want to. I'd rather invest and create enough of a fund in both of the nonprofits. And now I'm looking at a third, again, through LegalZoom, another $300, because I wanted to give more than $100,000 this year to the nonprofits and, avoid the tax return for the nonprofit. So we're now doing a third nonprofit that will be called 10X Living. So that's kind of the thought process: minimize hassle, minimize money going to tax preparers, and the government, and maximize time and impact in the nonprofit. Then, as I started learning about crypto, I wanted to start. I bought Tesla with happiness data's investment account, and that's through E-Trade. What I like about E-Trade is they will allow trading on margin, but what I don't like about it is they won't let the margin ride down to zero. In other words, they'll do margin. On E-Trade, I can double leverage by borrowing on margin, which I did for Tesla and MicroStrategies on E-Trade. But if it goes down, if MicroStrategies or Tesla goes down 30%, even though the account has loads of money in it, they send me a margin call. Now, the problem with that is that I'm only allowed to put in $50,000, at a given period of time. So I'm working around that because I had to do several margin calls this year. I'm just going to have Happiness Data give a refund to its sole donor, which is me, to the amount that I haven't, by the end of the year, contributed more, meaning I did contribute more to Happiness Data to cover the margin calls. Then I'll have it give a refund in December down to the, just below 50,000. And the benefit of that, since both of those have been trending in my favor, is the nonprofit gets to keep the profits on the extra money I put in and then refund it. So that's kind of how I'm navigating that. There was no way to trade Bitcoin futures on E-Trade. And so anyway, that's so Happiness Data now has, I don't know, $70,000 in it, from the 50 plus, increased investments this year. But I'm looking, and then earlier in the year, I bought Bitcoin, some at 22,000, a lot at 30,000, and dollar cost averaging. And because I tried to set up an institutional account for the religion on Coinbase, it's been 6 months. They haven't. If I write to them, they say we're still processing your application for 6 months, right? So we finally got that set up on Celsius, just because we just started applying to multiple places to see who could process their paperwork in anywhere near a reasonable amount of time. And Celsius has, now actually Celsius is we still have to get a bank statement for Celsius. They wouldn't take the IRS's proof of address. They wanted a bank statement just to prove that I live where I live. So anyway, I'm going to, just out of my Mystical Landscapes account, I funded Coinbase purchases of 70% Ethereum, 30% Bitcoin. That is now at around $215,000. And so, that could be either personal or it could be Mystical Landscapes S Corp. Could be categorized either way. But either way, at the end of the year, if I show, $215,000 of crypto in that account, I have to pay, taxes on all of that income, which would make this the highest, tax year that I've dealt with. And so I'm going to donate crypto directly so as not to have to sell it to Celsius. And then I set up a solo 401k. That was a tedious process through Rocket Dollar, managing the solo 401k for my wife and I, then going to Solara Bank to deposit the money into. My wife and I can each deposit $19,500, and then we're going to aim for an income, of around $60,000 each, which means the company can then put another $12,500, into the solo 401k, and I just transfer but interestingly, Celsius, according to my assistant, will not accept money directly from the solo 401k bank. This sounds nuts to me, but I'm assured that they will not. And so what I'm having to do is send from Solara Bank to Coinbase, my personal account, and then buy the same amount on the same day, and then send the ETH and Bitcoin to Celsius in the solo 401k for me and the solo 401k for my wife. So that, that gets us up to, let's say, 70,000 into the solo 401k for this year, which then don't have to pay, taxes on. But that still leaves another, as of this point, 100,000 or so, in my personal Coinbase, and I'm looking at how to move that out of my personal domain, into a tax-protected vehicle of some kind. I saw I forget what you called it, but your idea of donating to a trust that pays you a salary and then could donate to Happiness Data at the end. I'm not sure if I could borrow against that, or if Happiness Data could borrow against it if that trust is set up. That could be interesting. But I didn't like that you couldn't deduct the full donation in 1 year. I think I also have a limit of I can only deduct 50% of my adjusted gross income, if that's the right term, for Mystical Landscapes S Corp. So even if, for example, I got 2 other nonprofits started through LegalZoom and put all the money in at the end of the year, if I'm showing an income of, $50,000 but have donated $200,000 to nonprofits, it seems like that won't work. And basically, my mode right now is creating enough of an investment portfolio personally and in the nonprofits that I can put basic infrastructure in the land in the Philippines and then not have to spend more than about 10% a year of the investment income on maintenance. And it's easy to live for $20,000 a year in the Philippines. Once the land is set up, it's partly going to be producing organic vegetables. So that's kind of the process. And so I have the $100,000 personal IRA. I have the nonprofit one with $50,000 or $70,000 in it. That's its exposure to Bitcoin is through MicroStrategy, being about half of it right now, and Tesla being the other. Then the religion should be approved to put $50,000 of my crypto in. And I'm using 70% Ethereum and 30% Bitcoin because I like the creativity of Ethereum. They're moving towards deflation with their various code upgrades, etc. And I like that it's not as energy intensive. So that's the draw to Ethereum, along with an intuitive pull towards Ethereum. I'm interested in Bitcoin because I'm not entirely sure, although I watch them go up and down together. I don't like the Bitcoin community as much as I like the Ethereum community. I don't see as much creative, construction and stuff like that going on. So I like supporting, design ideas. But I guess another value of mine is I do not want to disappear into the crypto rabbit hole. I want to stay focused on my community. And so, I want to be in investments that I can safely ignore for a year and not come back and find that, there was a hack, there was a code rewrite, that there was a fork, and suddenly, I missed the moment and things have just, gone, because the goal is to have this, fund a long-term project. In a couple of years, right now I can easily generate, $300,000 a year in savings for stuff like this. But once I go over there, that'll, disappear to almost nothing. So that's the context. And if you have any pointers that would be useful to me, and if you want to cut and edit your responses to some of this or do your own version that might help others, I think it's a great enterprise to increase quality of life and use crypto to benefit nonprofits. And so it'd be nice to, for others that might have that interest, to learn how to do that with your expertise. Thank you. Hi, I'm Dane Rose. All knowledge begins with a paradigm, and out of that paradigm comes an idea, an awareness that we adopt, reject, or synthesize into something better. It doesn't become wisdom, it doesn't become useful until we take action, until we integrate it into not only our thoughts, but our feelings, our body, our words, and our way of being. For that to occur, we have to move from the passive media paradigm into more active engagement. In the link below, in the More Information section, is an invitation to join a very small, deliberately filtered, high-quality discussion with a group of people who share a common language and want to work with these ideas, with me and with one another, with the sole goal of creating 10 times more sustainable well-being for ourselves and those around us per unit of energy invested. Thank you for watching.